this artist can make any song sound amazing. You're going to meet Sasha Dobson. You'll know her from being in the band with Nora Jones and the band Puss-N-Boots, as well as her solo career. Get to learn about how she left home at 17, came to New York City, and a chance meeting that skyrocketed her career. Hey, stay to the end. She does an in-studio performance of a great song. Let's check it out. She's a singer-songwriter. She's a jazz singer. She comes from a pedigree family. I want to welcome Sasha Dobson to the Long Island Sound Podcast. Welcome, Sasha.
I love Long Island. And even when there's traffic, it's always nice to be here.
Yeah.
Beautiful life, but there's you got to pay for it. You're going to pay for it.
So, I've been doing my homework. I've been listening to your music.
Thank you.
I was astounded. And one of the things that really kind of what I love, you considering yourself a jazz singer, but you cross genres, which I think is great. I'm interested in your opinion on things because, I don't like to pin somebody down.
In my generation growing up, you weren't allowed to be gay. You weren't allowed to mix genres in music. You weren't allowed to wear this if you were part of this. It was very, these days, not just in music, everything is a lot more open and accepting. But it wasn't that long ago where we weren't culturally aware or at least advanced to the level that we've gotten to now, which is hopefully not
going in reverse.
Yeah.
And I also want to talk about your dad. I know he passed away tragically in 2001. Your dad was a pianist, a jazz pianist, and a professor. What was it like growing up with those influences?
It's really interesting growing up now because as you get older, you really start to see your past in such a different light. I mean, I think it was kind of normal for me to have what I had growing up. But now that I'm an adult and I'm an educator, and just every day I feel more and more grateful for having such a strangely unique childhood. If anything, a lot of my adult friends have admitted to being, which is embarrassing to say because, our family wasn't perfect. We didn't have a lot of money. My parents struggled like any family that made a living playing music.
Right.
We were happy and had what we needed, and mom and dad played music for a living. So it was always grand. There was always music. It was a time when people were gathering just to play. California is a different breed of musicians. So people get together to play more than in New York. New York is a little bit more about the gig. We're going to get together and play to rehearse for a gig. But even that is rare. I don't really know that many musicians that have time to rehearse or want to rehearse. I love to rehearse because it's part of the culture of just gathering to make music.
Right.
But I definitely see, especially as an educator, when I come into someone's home and work with a younger person, how involved the parent is with our work is an interesting thing because even if the parent is paying me a decent amount of money and cares about their kid's progress, they kind of don't really care beyond that, or it doesn't really, they've got too much on their mind. But so as far as having parents that really cared about, for some reason, I had parents that were hip enough to treat my brother and I like equals almost.
Okay.
We played music together, and it was our most happiest moments were for the most part when we were playing music. And so that in itself is, I think, where I was really, really lucky. It's changed and shaped the way that I think about music, the way I approach music. My relationship to music is, kind of cushioned because I had this warm, loving environment around all of that. It wasn't like my parents chastise me if I didn't practice. I kind of wish they were a little harder on me because it's taken me years to become more disciplined, and I've found other avenues, like yoga and meditation, to be a more disciplined, somewhat together person.
Sure.
A flighty artist, but they were definitely, they only wanted us to play music if it was something that we wanted to do. So it was very loving and supportive.
Yeah. So you have this nurturing relationship. You look back on it very fondly, which is fantastic.
I really do.
And I got to say, it's got to roll into you becoming a collaborative artist.
For sure.
And expand on that for me, because you have all these different things you've done. And when we spoke on the phone, when we talked about Puss-N-Boots, I was like, oh, Neil Young's like, my hero, right? So I'm like,
Sure.
yeah, you did a Neil Young too. Yeah, I know you.
Yeah, that's how a lot of people are, especially now that I'm back in Nora's band all year. People are like, they didn't put, because Nora doesn't really promote that her friend Sasha Dobson, who's a fellow Puss in Boot, is in her band now. She just kind of throws me into the mix.
Okay.
And just does a quick, like, this is Sasha Dobson. This is Brian Blade. She doesn't do a, like, this is my friend for 20 years who also I have a band,
Right.
They
Sure.
talk to people after the show and they're like, you're that girl. And I'm like, do I look that different? But, anyway, it's interesting the way people piece it together or don't piece it together. I mean, I don't care.
Right.
I'm just happy to play music. But I do think the reason why people want to, I'm starting to, you know how it is when you grow into yourself.
Mhm.
People are complaining about getting old, but I'm so far, as scary as it is, it's only been a good experience for me because I'm so much more thankful for the person I am.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Problems and do things that people hate, but also I'm starting to see why people want me in their band.
Okay, cool.
Because I'm not the best musician in the world, but I definitely have an element of enthusiasm, and that's directly from my parents.
So I want to talk to you about the parents that, these kids that you're teaching. And my assumption is, some parents might be, hey, this is a good distraction for the kids. And other parents might be, hey, they really got a gift or something going on here.
It's really interesting. I mean, I used to be like not into it. Like in my 30s, my mom used to, honey, just get some gigs teaching. It's such an easy way to make money compared to all the other things we do as artists where there's no money in it unless you're in the point.
You're in survival all the time.
And even if you're doing it is in survival mode.
Yep.
Even me, and I work with huge artists. I mean,
Right.
It's truly more than ever like the most dysfunctional situation financially now more than ever. Back when my parents were raising us, there was a lot more infrastructure and a lot more gigs. We didn't have DJs and digital media. It was like everything was analog. There was budgets for giant bands.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a totally different time.
So we're talking about the students and the parents and influence, and
sometimes you luck out. I mean, like I have a handful of students right now where their parents are so aware. They're all artists. One guy is an architect, but most architects are artists, and
sure.
and then but who are really smart and can take on these exceptional projects. But the point is that he's hip enough to know that his kid has a gift. Like some parents, they care. They just maybe don't have the artistic mind or musical ability. I was just telling my friend who's a musician, she sent me a video of her son who's must be less than age 2, and he was on the drums. He climbed on the drum set, and the way he was hitting the drums was so deep. And I was like, I want you to know that I think you have a drummer on your hands. Like, and she was like, really? And I was like, and he's left-handed. And she was like, oh my, I mean, so even it's not always because they don't care that they don't identify it.
Right.
But the ones that do see it, it's so fun for me to those kids because everybody's in, it's a full circle of just, I mean, I'm finally getting to the point with teaching, not that it's something I want to do full time.
Right.
But because I didn't have kids and I'm a family girl, I mean, I love, it is actually a way for me to have an exchange.
And an extended family. Right.
Totally.
Yeah.
And kind of give back, give on some of the knowledge that my brother and I got, where it's like not just out the door with me,
Right. If there's any advice, as I look at your students and parents is like, hey, you know what? What's going to make your life happy and their life happy is let them do what makes them happy.
Absolutely. That's exactly what my dad taught us. I mean, like I said, I wish they were a little, my leash was a little long, typical musician parents. My parents worked at night, and so I had to kind of mess up as an adolescent and young adult, before I really figured it out, and then losing my dad so severe and so young.
I read about it. Yeah.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. And then, my whole life is shaped around that incident and
Well, yeah.
usually interact with people. And it's still like, God, because people don't really understand what that can do to someone when you have a severe loss. It's traumatizing. And then most of my friends, they don't really understand because they maybe weren't that close to their dad. So it's this interesting road, but I was lucky enough to have him for that period. And it certainly, I definitely started cleaning up my act after that.
Yeah, it's
It was a little sharp,
it's it changes.
It's like,
Yeah,
low.
it changes course, and then and
Big
you
time.
you touched on it a little bit. Is like you start counting your blessings.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson that I'm learning. Just trying to
Me
learn.
too.
Yeah, well, you know what? Someone says, "How's your day?" I said, I woke up today. It's a good day.
Yeah.
And who knows what's ahead of us,
Yeah.
or how many days we have left. So, and I got to say this. I usually say this at the end of my podcast, and you touched on it a bit. You can't really count on how many days you have left, but the fact that we're being present to us is really a beautiful thing.
Sure. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
When people share time with me, New York, I have a little bit of a bug up my butt when it comes to the city and the grind. And I lost my mother this year, right before. Oh, which sounds like such a downer. No, it's just, I did have her 22 years longer than dad. So
Yeah.
I'm really thankful. And it was sudden, which we really didn't expect. We figured mom would be this long, drawn out situation because dad left so suddenly.
Right.
But she didn't suffer. And anyway.
Bring me back to the time of it being a teenager.
Okay.
Okay. Your dad's famous, right?
Yeah. In his own world, for
In his own world, for sure. And
everybody knew dad. When I came to New
yeah,
York, I was 17. I got out of high school early because back then, in my alternative Santa Cruz town, young artists could get their GED. There was a certified teacher who was able to help artists like myself who hated high school, hated regular grade school, expand and take courses at the junior college, which was amazing in Santa Cruz, and have an amazing music department, which I stupidly didn't take advantage of. Instead, I moved straight to New York. I was 17. I know.
By yourself? Did you?
Myself. Well, I went to the new school.
Right. Okay.
So I had some structure, but
Yeah.
more than I did at my house. But,
Okay.
it was a little soon. But anyway, teenager. Okay.
So my question is this. So your dad's
Playing every night.
playing every night.
Yeah.
He's known. Your mom's a singer.
Yeah.
Your brother's
And then he was playing
your brother's playing. You
Yeah.
guys used to play at some festival, right? And stuff like that. So immediately I think to myself, in my imagination, is like, oh, he's probably got her, at the keyboards, at the drums, at this and that. And, how is it when you have a dad who's a teacher and you having that movement towards music?
Sadly, I wish I was the person I am now.
Okay.
Because I think, if only he was still around, all the things that he wanted for me, but maybe was resistant to push on to me. I think his dad was kind of an asshole to him. And,
Oh, okay. He didn't want to be that dad.
He wanted so badly to not be his dad that he was a little loose with pushing us in any particular direction. It was really up to us to figure it out. And I didn't really figure it out until my 20s when it came to all the instruments and the writing and all the things that I got into.
Uh-huh.
My theory is that with such a big family of personalities, all equal to me.
Okay.
And the type of person I am now, I realize for someone who is a show, if you see me on stage, I'm very out, extroverted.
Okay.
But I'm kind of an introvert. Oops, sorry, at heart. And I mean, I like to do all the things I love to do are things that you have to do by yourself.
Quiet time.
Not like people, but I realized, oh, I had no idea that there's no way I would have been able to take on an instrument in that family because there was no room in our house. And my brother played drums. He played vibes. He was an early, I'm a late bloomer. He was an early bloomer. He
Okay.
climbed on the drums at age 2, and me and my dad had been playing ever since then. And so by the time he was 10, he was leading his own band at the Modern Jazz Festival. My brother, I didn't know until I saw a family video maybe 15 years ago. And I thought, well, Smith wasn't just, my brother is Smith Jr. Smith wasn't just talented. He was definitely a child prodigy. No. So I was the youngest and I sang, but for the most part, I was really shy and intimidated. I mean, I did not want to fail in front of these people. So my dad, who wanted desperately for me to play piano, play and sing, I just was like, F you. I mean, I tried a little bit of piano and I loved it. But the practicing was and is hard for me, which is why I feel I have a thing with young people. It's because I know how to help that part of them, like the scatterbrain, like I don't know what to do when you're gone.
Well, that's really beautiful in a way. If you think about the struggle you went through,
Yeah.
and now you have the sympathy.
Big time. I know exactly what to do.
Where their heads at.
And that's where maybe the parents get it. It goes over their head. Like I know from my own experience, we all learn so different. Like my brother is such an incredible artist, multi-instrumentalist, writer. I mean, he's such a creative person. I'm so in awe of him. I always have been. But now that I've gone through all the therapy and all the things, yoga, went to India, all my things I love.
Right.
I've learned, oh my God, we're just so different in the way that we produce, create, manifest, process. And, I'm just I just do it differently than him.
Yeah.
But when I was younger, with him being 2 years older, it was very frustrating because it just seemed like he was good at everything and I didn't know how to do anything. And he was like, get out, you're copying me. Like the whole.
You know what I'm thinking?
Sibling.
Your dad was probably very intuitive.
Definitely.
In that you found your way.
I did.
You found your way in your own way.
Yeah.
And
on my own time.
Guess what? That doesn't always happen. But there is something about, I'll call you a creative.
Sure.
That you can now expand and move around and discover things. But this is the beauty part of being an artist, or when I talk to artists, you're able to articulate things that I'm feeling. But tell me about the times that you've gone from introverted Sasha to extroverted Sasha.
Being brought up in that family, unique family, dear, bless their heart. But I definitely, we had such bad luck with babysitters. A lot of the times my parents just took us to the gig and all the years of watching my mom and dad, they were so beautiful and at ease and not hokey and so groovy and generous on stage. And then I spent years as a young adult, like totally having anxiety, like to have to talk and, all these things, it took me years and years of doing it to really get to a point where I'm going to hold George.
Yeah.
Let it be known that I have a dog.
This is George. And George is being tremendously good. Let me tell you.
See how this goes. Relax. All I know is that now when I'm on stage, I'm not like, it's not even about me anymore. Something takes over. It's not like that hokey, but definitely it's the most at ease, the most comfortable. I don't know. My mom sadly, passed away about a week before we started tour last year. It was the most heaviest, most random thing. And then I thought, oh no, now I've got to go on the road and hold it together and perform. But it wasn't like I was going to not do the tour. Plus, Nora is one of my dear friends. I'm not going to let her down, and I want to do it. Mom would want me to do it. And there were moments that were totally surreal. Like I just so out of body up there, like grief stricken,
Yeah.
like holding back the tears, but not like the whole gig. I mean, you just can't make this shit up. Like it was so out.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of wake services. I was a deacon at one time, but no more. And I'd watch people go through grief.
I remind myself of her all the time. I am her and my dad, you know,
Right.
and it's a great thing, but it does make it hard to shake,
Yeah.
you know,
Sure.
and, you know, especially as my life evolves and I, you know, make my own internal revelations, you know, I think just last night, I'm like, this, you know, I really would love to call my mother right now, but
Right.
it takes time.
Yeah.
You know, one of my friends, well, someone I knew on the tour, we'd just gotten off the road. It only had been maybe 2 months since she passed.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got home where I was like, oh God, this is really intense. You know, I can't go home, Mom. And the person was like, oh, you're having like some delayed grief, I guess. And I thought, are you nuts?
And in grief, it's not
Delayed grief. You know, this is what our culture thinks about death. So it's a personal journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's so connected to what I do, you know. I just tried to channel it or
Let's talk. Educate me on jazz.
okay.
There's dissonant chords. There's a certain intimacy, at least when I look at a jazz audience. I'm going to call you a jazz singer. What's the experience that you have with your audience?
Well, it depends on where you're playing.
Okay.
Who's on the gig. I mean, I've been really adamant about using the same guys in my jazz world. You know, a lot of jazz gigs around the city where, you know, people are just like, I need a singer for this, I need a guitarist for this. And then you jump on the bandstand with people you've never met because, you know, in jazz, generally speaking, you're pulling tunes from the Great American Songbook. And yeah, sure, I've got a huge list of songs that I know. I know a ton of jazz tunes. I've been singing them since I was a little girl. I
Sure.
know all my keys. It's very easy for me to jump in any band and sing. But I'm kind of not like into doing that as much. I would do it with people I know or if the money was amazing.
Sure.
As far as booking my own bands, I try and work with pretty much a handful of the same guys. And so then I've kind of capitalized I'm controlling the environment. So even if maybe the audience isn't quite dialed in or we can hear Georgie licking and she drinking water.
Right. Good point. That means he's reliable.
Girl, yeah, yeah. Over the years, I've tried to figure out how can I, you know, make the situation better, support what I'm doing because it's such a strange thing nowadays. Jazz, even in the jazz world, jazz is no longer jazz. I'm a traditionalist. Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's that, you know, we've got
The torch
all
thing.
different kinds of music now is labeled as jazz. You go to a jazz festival, there's
Anything can happen.
any real traditional jazz,
Right. Yep.
which is fine with me. I don't have any big opinions about that, except that I happen to love to do traditional jazz. I'm
Sure.
an improviser. I scat sing, and it's something
I
I
heard it.
really, really enjoy doing. It's something that I feel really good at, that I'm good at, and it's something that you know is really made fun of, and not a lot of people know how to do it. So I just kind of felt like, well, I should continue doing it because I love it. And
Keep it alive.
keep it alive and keep it alive.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking about Van Morrison right now, and you know he's just
My dad played with Van Morrison,
Get out.
back in the 70s.
Oh, you got to tell me about that.
Yeah.
So thinking about Van Morrison, who's an interesting guy.
Yes.
A bit of a curmudgeon, I would say. Sorry, Van, that's my opinion.
Hard to believe.
It's
Quite the party animal.
He does scat, and he pulls it from being a sax player, and it's not something to be made fun of, but I think it's kind of freeing for him. To me, it's kind of weird. It's almost like speaking in tongues, right?
But it's not speaking in tongues.
it's yeah. You're not channeling anything. Okay. But I that is amazing. You know. So
I love it. I loved Ella Fitzgerald like with a passion as an 8, 9-year-old kid, and listened to all of her records and memorized all of her solos. And my dad was an amazing singer and scat singer as well.
Awesome.
My mom also was a great scat singer, but more of a just incredible vocalist. But dad really sat down with me over the years and helped me figure out how to open up and start making up melodies. And now being a vocal improviser is what directly influenced my writing
Okay.
and melody writing. So for me to sit down and just play some chords and mess around on guitar, I've got 19 melodies in my head already, So that's the cool thing for me. I can draw straight from my jazz mind when I'm writing. It
Okay.
makes it really fun and easy. And I love working with people who dig improvising. It's actually kind of hard for me, sometimes I'm just like, well, like in Nora's band, she's really into parts. So I get to do the polar opposite of what I'm used to doing and really good at,
Okay.
which is like, I could sing it 900 different times, but singing it apart the same way is a whole other craft.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I get to like work on that and learn more of that with her. But yeah, scat singing, it's a challenging thing to teach. When you could try and add theory to the mix, and but it is kind of what you're just saying. You're just there is it's like freedom in form. You're
Right.
trying to pick the good notes, but you're also just letting your mind go. When you're thinking about what you want to sing, whether it's scatting or listening to what you're singing while you're singing, you're missing it. It's like I always say, the greatest singers, kids or adults, there's a thing that's happening it's straight out, and there's no like thinking about it. The great singers are just straight out. It's like straight.
It's not contrived.
There's nothing contrived, and it's hard to describe it, but it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Someone's just got it.
When I watch like an American Idol and I see a singer kind of falsely putting out the vocals, it really ruins the connection. And I tell you, when a artist is transparent to me, that's where the connection is made, and that's where it's kind of magical.
Yeah, I mean, I wish that there were more artists. I wish that type of artwork and music were
Nurtured. Yeah.
But I'm not one of those artists that like hates all the new artists. It's just that I'm so aware of that style, like, of that whatever we're talking about, that ability.
It's so much
That I just know that that's what I love.
Right.
When I love an artist is because it's coming straight from the source, whatever that is. It's not like some premeditated sound.
Right. So on that point, who are some of your favorite artists today?
Geez, put me on the spot.
I know. Well,
I should have made a list. You can look at my Spotify list. I've been listening to this amazing singer who I believe is originally from Cuba, but she's famous in Mexico. Her name is Chavela.
Okay.
She's an incredible singer. She's not alive anymore.
Tell me about the residency that you're doing now.
This is every Sunday from 6 to 8, probably through March. And I've been pulling out new songs and kind of silently, now I'll publicly say it, but I've been kind of working with different musicians to figure out who to use for my next record. Because I'd like to put out another record. It's time for me to put out another record of original music. And Girl Talk and Simple Things were two projects that I put out during the pandemic. Simple Things is more of like a little grunge EP that I did.
Nice.
Producer Don Was, and bassist and drummer Jay Lane. They're both part of the Wolf Brothers with Bob Weir.
Yep.
And friends. And Residency is at a little bar called Matilda's, and it's 676 Fifth Avenue in Brooklyn, and it's in the South Slope of Brooklyn, and it's a totally adorable little Twin Peaks type like little getaway bar, and it's been amazing. I kind of devoted last year to Nora's album and project, which was a totally magical experience despite my mom passing.
Right.
And it was amazing. to work on guitar and get to play with Brian Blade on drums and Nora, who I love. But everything that I want to work on as an artist, as far as my own stuff goes, gets put on hold. So even though I don't mind, it wasn't until I started working on my own music again that I thought, oh, wow, I really missed me.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And so, yeah, it's been good. This residency is happening 6 to 8 on Sundays.
Oh, nice.
So we're going to take your information and put it in the description so everyone can check it out. What are you looking for in a musician, in an artist to play on the album?
That's a good question. I mean, I just want to feel good. It's a feeling.
Right. Okay.
It's a vibe.
It's a chemistry. How do you discover chemistry?
It's so intimate, you know?
Yeah.
You just want to feel good. And okay, so like there's a great rock band called the Yeah Yeah Yeahs.
Okay.
And they're huge. I covered one of their songs in an earlier record that I made called Modern Romance. And anyway, jump ahead 10 years. My yoga teacher, who I've been practicing with for 20 years, there's this guy that's been taking yoga in this class, and we become friends. Anyway, it turns out he's the drummer for the Yeah Yeah Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, that's funny.
Years after I knew him. Anyway, he's one of the drummers that's been playing, and we recently started playing together. And one of the first things I noticed about him was how easy it was to lock in with him.
Oh, okay.
Just
Nice.
and just the nicest person.
Oh, that's
And
great.
never. And I have a handful of musicians that I adore that are a handful where I feel like it's so much to deal
Struggle.
with them,
Yeah.
to get them to call me back. And it, you know, there's so many great musicians. Sometimes it gets a little just hard. Like, is it like, I don't, and the music is just so great.
Right. Right. Right.
And I have kind of a high threshold from growing up with quirky musicians. So I kind of am like, where's the line that I draw, you know? But then people like Brian, it's just it's so everything,
Just like rolling naturally for you.
everything.
That's
The
great.
music is, you know, amazing. So, you know, it was good for me because I thought when I got off tour, I thought, do I even want to be in New York?
Sasha, I'm going to talk to Sasha, the songwriter. How do you develop the muse? Where does it come to you? Do you plan on it? Is it really structured? How do you write songs?
Man, I wish I had a better, you know, I'm really disciplined with certain things. I'm very disciplined with what I eat, and I'm very disciplined with my yoga. You know, I have great health habits thanks to my parents. They were both healthy Californians. I'm kind of a drag with songwriting. Like I've had these waves of writing music where it just kind of happened.
Right.
The more you're writing, the easier it is. And I've gone through waves where I really push myself to write, and it always works.
Cool.
I'm not like someone that's writing all the time.
Right.
I wish I were, because I like to do a lot of things. I take ballet, you know, like I have like a lot of things that I like to do. You know, and sometimes I think, well, maybe if I just like simplify and shrink it down, I'd probably get more done writing wise.
Right.
At other times, you know, it's like a baby that doesn't want their diapers changed. Like I know like the one thing that's going to make me feel better and confident and together, the one thing that's probably going to draw more energy into my career is to finish more music. And that's
Right.
the one thing I'm not doing. I don't know what the fuck is. I feel like most songwriters would probably understand what I'm talking about. It's like, you know, it's this weird relationship. But all I know is that when I'm writing, everything else comes together.
Nice.
You know, so that's my main goal right now, is just put everything back into Sasha. And, you know, and then I am doing some touring with Nora this year. And obviously when I'm doing that, it all goes into Nora, which is
Sure.
easy and fun.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
love her music and I love singing with her. We've been singing together for 20 years.
How did you guys meet?
We met on a jazz gig. My boyfriend at the time, who was playing drums, anyway, I went because that, you know, went to his gig, and I sat in and Nora sat in, and
Oh, okay.
she was visiting for a summer. I had already moved in to go to the new school, and Nora was thinking about moving to New York. And
Okay. So you're like 18?
we were probably 19 we were probably 20.
Oh, wow. Wow.
19 or 20, and we're a day apart. So,
Really?
yeah. So we're the same age anyway. Yeah, Jesus, 25 years, 26 years. So, yeah. So I was like, hey, man, you sounding great. And she was like, thanks. So did you? And then I didn't see her for maybe a year. And then all of a sudden we were the two singers who were being rotated on the same gig. And so we always orbited around the same musicians. All the times we've ever lost touch, we've always circled back.
Yeah.
Because of the people we're orbiting around. We just have that karma.
Nice.
And it's still, I mean, now we're like very intertwined.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it is an amazing dynamic,
So many years, too.
many lifetimes. It's a very special friendship, sisterhood, and collaboration. It's very, very interesting and special to work on her music, and support her. I mean, my dad was a masterful supporter, sideman, and that is a really fun gig.
Right.
It's important if you're supposed to be a band leader, if you're supposed to write your own music, it's also important to make sure you're continually working on those things. But I also have this thing that I love to be a supportive person on the bandstand.
Nice.
I know how to do that.
Right.
And push someone, make it
coalesce together.
Yeah. So that's really fun for me. And yeah, like I said, singing with Nora is totally magical. We have a thing.
Nice. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
So you brought your guitar. We're going to take a break and set up the other room for you and have a listen to your song. Really looking forward to it. Hey, everybody, stick with us. We'll be right back.
She's a comet, dancing the night. She's a snowflake, fall from the sky. Used to voice thunder and rain. Oh, mama, I keep on trying to call. I am younger each passing day. I am rooted. Earth that you made, wanna thank you, tell you I'm fine. Oh, mama, I keep on trying to call. Oh, why does it have to be? Sugar from my heart is full. You made sense of everything, and I'm not the same. No, I'm not the same. I'm not the same without you, Mama. Fire and light, can you hear me? Call in the night, 'cause it's not the same. It never could, oh, mama. I keep on trying to call. Sugar from my heart is full. You made sense of everything, and I'm not the same. No, I'm I'm not the same without you. Baby, sing me to sleep, restful daughter. Our souls can meet in the twilight, or out on the street. We can meet in the eyes of one another. We can meet in the eyes when we sing. Da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da,
Thank
That is a
you.
beautiful song.
Oh,
No,
thanks.
it is. And it's so apropos to our conversation.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, we're back. I'm with Sasha Dobson.
And Sasha, I got to tell you, you've been really transparent. I've learned so much. We've mentioned this before. You've really been present to me in our audience. You brought my dad back to me. I know your parents are with us in spirit as well. And a good friend always told me, he said, you know what? You can account for what you have in the bank and what you own. You can never account for the time that you have left. And I think the both of us know that all too well. And what a blessing that you've been present to me today. Thank you so much.
Talking about your dad and,
Well-
and your mom. I think they're with us right
Yeah.
now. And you'd be very, the feeling I'm getting is they're extremely proud of the woman that you've become. Yeah, really. And, and
Stop it.
we talked about so many things.
It's my absolute pleasure. I'm so much more into the in-person.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I was a little bit reluctant during that traffic drive, but it was totally worth it.
All right. Until next time, we'll see you. Be well, everyone.